Welcome to Vuforia Spatial Toolbox EV3 Beginner. Today we're going to go over how to establish connection with the EV3 and use the nodes that are built in. First, if you haven't already, you should go to our GitHub and download the project. This is how you get the EV3 connection, all of the files that we're going to be using. There's also a lot of documentation for any troubleshooting tips, so this is a good first place to go. I'll put the link in the description so you can go download it for yourself. Before we get the EV3 connected, let's make sure we're on the right complexity setting. So I'm going to change directory into the Vuforia Spatial Edge server, and then I'm going to run node server. This is going to start up the Vuforia Spatial Toolbox, and then we can head over to localhost 8080 and change our settings. So open up a web browser and type in localhost:8080, and you should see a web page that looks a lot like this. We're going to go to the Manage Hardware Interfaces tab, turn your EV3 on if it's not already, and then go to the settings. Go ahead and check your complexity level. For this video, we're going to be using beginner, so type in beginner and hit save. In order to save the changes, you're going to have to restart the server, so hit Ctrl+C in the terminal that's running the server, and then we can start getting the EV3 connected. First, for the EV3, we're going to have 3 terminal windows open. In the rightmost terminal, you can see I'm typing System Profiler SP Bluetooth Data. This is how we're going to get the Bluetooth MAC address of our EV3. The one you're going to want to look for is going to be labeled EV3 Dev. You can see this address. This is the Bluetooth MAC address that we're going to need. So you're going to go ahead and put that into line 10 of client.py and make sure you replace all the hyphens with colons. Now again, in this terminal, we're going to want to navigate into our PTC Toolbox folder. So we're going to go into Documents, PTC Toolbox folder. We're going to see what files are here, and you can see there's this server.py and ports.py. So we're actually going to want to move those over to our EV3. So if we do scp ports.py to robot at the IP address of the robot, and then :tilde, that's going to send that folder over to the robot. It's going to ask for a password. This is the EV3's password. To find the robot's IP address, you first have to connect it to Wi-Fi, and then you can see it in the top left corner of the EV3 screen when you turn it on. Make sure you run this command twice, once for ports and once for server.py. Next, we're going to zoom out and we're going to go to the top left terminal. This is going to be the one that we're going to dedicate to the EV3. So this is where we're going to SSH into the robot. So here we're going to run the command SSH robot at the IP address of the EV3. So this time, make sure you don't include the :tilde, just the IP address, and then enter the same password you were before. And now you can see that we're inside the EV3. If we type ls, we get a list of the files in the EV3. Make sure that you see server.py and ports.py. And you can also see on the top bar of our terminal, it says robot at EV3 dev to indicate that we are SSH'd into the EV3. So now we're going to go back to the right terminal for a second, and we're just going to change directories into the Vuforia Spatial Edge server. So now we're going to go to the bottom left terminal, and we're going to navigate through the Vuforia Spatial Edge server. So change directories into the server, into add-ons, into the robotic add-on, into interfaces, and then finally into the EV3 interface. And so now let's take a look at the files that we have here. The important one here is client.py. This is the file that we're going to be running in this terminal. And so now that all the terminals are in the right directories, we're ready to start the connection. So first, in the Vuforia Spatial Edge server, we're going to run node server. So this is going to start up the Vuforia server. And then in the EV3, we're going to run python3 server.py. So that's going to start the EV3 server. And then we're going to get ready in the bottom left terminal to run python 3.7 client.py. We have to wait to run client.py until server.py gives us a print statement that says up and running. So we see we just got the print statement, so that means that we're ready to run client.py. If the connection is made successfully, client.py will return this line of text. So that's the line of text you want to look for. You can see in server.py there's a lot of errors. These are just to let you know that certain sensors aren't connected to the EV3. This won't stop the program from running, and this won't stop the connection from happening. After that, we are ready to start controlling the EV3 through the Spatial Toolbox. Here you can see I have the EV3 next to its image target. If you don't know what an image target is, you can check out our video on that. But if we go into the Programming tab, you can see we have 5 different nodes. So let's go ahead and use one of these nodes. We're going to grab the slider from the pocket. We're going to drag it into our space, size it appropriately, and move it around. And we're going to connect it up to LED right. So now we're going to go ahead and unfreeze the screen so we can see what this does. So as we move the slider up and down, you can see that the LED on the EV3 is changing colors. So the higher it goes, the more green it is, and if we bring it all the way to the bottom, it turns off. So now we're going to freeze the screen again. We can go back into our pocket and we're going to grab a value tool. So this way we can see what the distance sensor is reading on the EV3. So again, we're going to resize the tool and move it in our space. We're going to connect it up to the ultra node. So this reads in from the ultrasonic sensor. And you can see it updates to around 60 centimeters. If we unfreeze the screen, you can see there's a box about 60 centimeters away from the EV3. So next we're going to take advantage of the motors node. So if we freeze the screen and go back into the pocket, first we're going to grab a switch. So we can drag this switch into our space, move it over to the left a little bit, and we're going to connect this up to the stop motors node. So stop motors, if this switch is on, will stop all of the motors, and so this way we can stop the EV3 from running away from us. We're going to turn it on by default so that when we connect the value tool up to the motors node, the motors don't start running automatically. So if we go ahead and unfreeze the screen, we can turn stop motors off, and this starts the motors on the EV3, and then we can turn stop motors on again and it stops them. Right now the motors don't get the commands at the same time, so the EV3 drives on a bit of a diagonal. We also didn't use the speaker node in this video because you wouldn't be able to hear it, but if you connect the slider up to the speaker node, just how we have LED right, as you vary the slider value, the EV3 outputs different sounds.